Guys, today it's time we actually learn what a real lawyer thinks about the entire Ashes of Creation situation.
Today we're talking about the Ashes of Creation absolute gaming scandal and the legal
Thank you.
nightmare that's
Thank
come of it,
God.
and one of the biggest disasters in gaming history. This is a legal mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire,
Wow.
American
Just like
attorney.
Reddit.
This is a fast facts video, the quick and dirty version
They're
of the
all
latest
lawyers
in legal
there.
news. And this is something that came to my attention as I really came into the scope of this, the accounting nightmare and absolute insanity. And from a person who's been corporate counsel, this is a level of
Ooh.
absolute corporate degeneracy that needed to be
Yep.
exposed. And also
To be fair, you don't need to be an expert to know that.
also the risks for people investing in this, whether you're a large investor or whether you're just a Kickstarter backer. All of these people were harmed in this scandal. So let's get into that today.
I wonder if Kickstarter backers have some ground.
So this is the defendant here. Just so you guys understand, this was supposed to be a quote unquote old school sandbox MMO type RPG. In case you haven't heard of it, it had been planned for 9 years since 2016. So obviously the studio, Intrepid Studios, is at the center of this, but the real defendant here, the one who really comes up over and over again, is Mr. Steven Sharif, who is not only
the man
creative
himself,
director, but really the founder, the driving force behind this. And when you look at
the guy who funded the entire operation and of course lost it to the board. Yes, this guy right here. The MLM guy. We all chose to ignore his past in favor of the future. And look what it got us. Man, this is fun. I love real life. It's so good.
All the accounting, it points back to this gentleman. And
we got a reality check.
Many plaintiffs. When you look at the plaintiffs here, you see there are WARN Act lawsuits, which were mass layoffs. That's something I'm going to explain to you guys because the laws regarding that in America are actually very strict. And where they were in California, they're even more strict. And then you've got TFE Game Holdings, Robert Dawson, a massive investor.
Yeah, we heard about him
Trust
recently.
with Jason Kramis, unpaid vendors. They were not
Yee,
paid
Legacy
for stuff
Trust.
like Google services, etc. All that had to be paid back. And then one thing I'm really concerned about is backers and crowdfunder class actions, because in my mind, Kickstarter funding and whatnot, it may not be as big, but it shouldn't be treated as less than or shouldn't be treated as second class. And these people
I think it actually does, right? Because it counts as donations, and if I'm not mistaken, you don't owe them a refund. Even if he did promise them a refund, the fact that he launched on Steam kind of negate that rule. So now he doesn't have to return the Kickstarter backers their money back, right? He found a loophole, if I'm not mistaken about that.
Shouldn't be forgotten about as people that were harmed as part of this whole debacle. So let's get into it. The opening statements here. The Sandbox MMORPG was developed, announced in 2016. It grew through Kickstarter, primarily hitting 750,000.
Bro, how desperate are we MMORPG players? I didn't even know it hit that goal this fast. God damn, man, we're so desperate. We need some help.
Dollars in 12 hours. So getting a lot of traction very, very quickly and eventually ending up with over $3 million in funding. So a significant amount of Kickstarter funds in the aggregate. Although, yes,
not even close for an MMORPG goal, but yeah.
But we have to remember, as we're going to see, a lot of this was really a pyramid of loans based on projected revenue.
Said a word
that was not reported correctly or not being actually donated. And then that used to create larger loans. So there's a whole sort of pyramid that started with Kickstarter. Without that Kickstarter,
hey bro, it's called MLM. It's multi-level marketing. I mean, you see, you give the guy and you do that. Oh shit.
Funding.
Oh god.
They wouldn't have been able to secure the larger loans and get themselves in this.
That ain't good.
The early access was launched on December 11th, 2025, but the entire studio closed in January 2026, and the game was removed from Steam in February 2nd, 2026. So the real question there is, like, did the people that bought in get what they paid for? Did they expect the launch to take 9 years and then only last for a couple of months? No, that's not the typical expectation of a gamer, and that's not what you'd expect when you're going to buy a product. So the WARN Act, the mass layoffs, this is a really interesting federal law that I have a lot of experience with, and it deals with the 60-day notice for companies over 100 plus employees. Back during COVID, I was around when we had to issue these type of warnings to all sorts of companies across the United States, and particularly if you're in California, they have an extra special statute that has more requirements and is much more strict. So they laid off 123 employees without proper legal notice. So this signals to me,
Wow.
as someone who has deep experience with this, very big insolvency issues. Typically, you're
Yeah.
not
Big bad. Don't go to court with this because you owe people their money. And I get it. You gotta have to notify people the fact that you're closing the company and everyone's fired. You need to notify that beforehand so they can actually find jobs and they won't be hanging in the air just looking for coin to just, some of these developers most likely lives paycheck to paycheck. The gaming industry is brutal. It's reality. It's very unfortunate one, but it is what it is. So you gotta give them this time to actually find a job before you just send them into oblivion. And they laid off everybody without notice, probably because the company just shut it down because Steven just left and everything crumbled. And he owes so much money, as we've heard recently from Jason, who was responsible for basically funding the entire ordeal because Steven lied about that apparently. And he actually didn't finance everything. Sorry, my brain just lagged there. And yeah, it's going to be a juicy one for sure. Because whenever I heard they just fired everyone without notice, I was like, no way that's possible. There's gotta be a law that protects him. Like, no way.
you're going to be able to do this. You're going to be able to get around this and deal with this if you've got the money, if you've got the ability to deal with this. Only companies that do not have money and that are truly deeply insolvent are going to run up against WARN Act mass layoff issues, right? That's typically a sign that you don't have the money and you're not doing the budgeting properly. And the cases that are looking into this and the cases that are against this are in several jurisdictions, but they're really seeking 60 days back pay and benefits. There's 2 class actions. One of them's in California. And like I mentioned, California law is not in favor here. So those people are probably going to get a payout there in California. But
Okay,
I want
that's
to read
good to know.
Comments from once again,
That's
Mr.
actually good
Steven
to know.
Sharif, because he's a
I mean, I really cared about the developers being fired without any severance whatsoever. So I'm glad to hear that. I really hope they would get their money back. Their money back. I mean, the money they earned, right? Because they really tried to pull off a fast one with the entire Steam closed shenanigan tree, where essentially they just took it off on the 30th, right? On the 30th of the month, just to like freeze the funds, and nobody got their money. So yeah, it was really bad. They announced their closure before that, so they won't get paid. Like, this sucks. So I really hope they would get their money back.
character
And I hope it would be out of Steven's pocket.
here who, after these layoffs were happening, tried to draw out a lot of sympathy. And as we're going to see, he's perhaps one that shouldn't be speaking here. But let's read his statement to give it fair dues here and give it some,
He posted this on Discord.
So he said, and this is one of his statements he made on Discord: I can make
Yeah.
a limited statement in my personal capacity and not on behalf of the company regarding the situation. Control of the company shifted away from me, and the board began directing actions that I could not ethically agree with or carry out. As a result, I chose to resign in protest rather than
Of
lend
course.
my name and authority to decisions I could not ethically support. Following my resignation, much of the senior leadership team resigned. Following the departures, the board made the decision to issue the WARN Act notices and proceed with a mass layoff. I cannot responsibly speak to further details at this time due to ongoing legal and governance matters. That's some real corporate lawyer speak right there. What I can say is that the developers and staff acted in good faith. That's a word right there. And deserve better than uncertainty they are now facing. I am incredibly dismayed by the situation.
Dude, it's so funny reading this again after knowing what really happened behind the scenes. It's just hilarious to know that Steven essentially froze the Steam funds because he told the bank that, well, he told Steam that the bank, how did he actually do it? He told Steam that, like, the bank was a certain type of bank that kind of belonged to his account, and Steam just gave him the money, essentially, before Valve froze it. So he screwed up everyone. He scorched earth the entire Intrepid studio because he left. That's it, right? Because he was out of money and people just kicked him. So he was so salty. He scorched earth the entire company. He did not care. He did not care. He ruined so many developers' life, and they wouldn't get severance. Like, it's so cringe. This giant man baby actually did that, hurting other people because of your inflated massive ego. It just, oh man, I really hope they would file a lawsuit against him. Like, one big, like a giant one. I don't want like small lawsuits here and there. I want ginormous, one that takes him down. And I really hope he would get some jail time out of it. I truly hope that would happen.
Guarantee you he had a lawyer draft this up. I can tell you that right now. This is a
100%.
definite lawyerly statement talking about limited statements, good faith, right? This is something that is lawyer drafted up. And we can see that when we actually get into the accounting.
He was ready for it.
Credit to Nafaz HQ, who did a lot of the accounting work. And there's a lot of great accounts that have been following this and haven't gotten enough traction on this, because I believe a scandal of this size deserves to be exposed, so that everybody knows this is what you can be getting into with these projects you're giving money to and investing in, whether you're investing on Kickstarter or whether you're somebody who has a significant amount of money.
Man, Nafas has been doing God's work with this. He's a truly top-tier Ashes hater. I love that. Like, thankfully, we need more people like him. He actually went the distance and got all the receipts from genuine people and verified everything. That's so crazy. He'd done God's work here.
Like in your pension or your 401k,
like shout out to him,
to direct it towards these things. This was a massive amount. We're talking about $99 million here, right? And
and people told me that Ashes lacked the funds. That's wild, brother. That's wild. Again, if the numbers are truly real, and it seems like they are, Ashes didn't lack any money. They had it all. It just mismanaged. And if that's true, that Steven actually had a salary of $50,000 per month, that's gonna be even crazier. I mean, if you're actually giga rich and you just wanna like build a game for funsies, why would you take such a ludicrous amount of money per month? Why would you even need that? You're already wealthy, you have like tons of real estate, you own practically everything in your area. Who cares? Who cares? Just use it to fund the company. Give your workers better conditions, right? Like, give them better stuff. Or maybe hire some more people. Or, you know what? That may sound crazy. Hire some actual talent instead of putting yourself in charge. But no, he just wanted to give himself that salary because he believes that he deserves it. Man, this man, every single time I hear a new information about him, it just makes me want to hurl. It's crazy, dog. Like, it just so annoying. Like, these people always come out on top. I really hope, I pray to God, that he won't get away with this.
Again, this is absolutely an insane amount of money.
It's a ludicrous amount of money.
Really misused. So let's get into the investor lawsuits. So the first lawsuit with TF.
And by the way, just to so you guys understand it better, I think World of Warcraft vanilla, not classic. Obviously, it wasn't classic back in the day. Vanilla WoW took, I think, 50 million to create, which obviously count for inflation. It's way more these days, but Ashes had the money, right? And they're using an Unreal Engine 5. It does not belong to them. They're using an existing engine. They did not develop their own. So it definitely saved a lot of cost. A lot.
FE lawsuit in Nevada was by Robert Dawson against Sharif and John Moore. It claims embezzlement, commingling of funds, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duties. Those are all very serious claims, and those are all related to essentially when you're having an amount of money that's not directed where it should go, it's being embezzled. You're commingling funds. That means personal funds and business funds.
Exactly.
Right? Fraud, fraudulent misrepresentation. You say you're going to use it for one thing, you're using it for another, and breach of fiduciary duty. You're in charge of those funds and you're misusing them. You have a fiduciary duty to your company, right, and investors to use them in a proper manner. So they go out and say that Sharif withdrew $10 million that just wasn't accounted for.
And also, can't they get him on the fact that he literally lied about having no investors and he's fully funding everything? I feel like this is something that is very easy to pinpoint because he said this multiple times on text. There are literally records of him saying it. So I think it's so easy to just roll back the tapes and watch him say the same damn thing over and over again. That there are no investors, nobody involved inside of the company. And that's not even a fraud. It's just a straight out lie. He was lying. So, yeah, I mean, definitely they should get him on that.
Beard. He was paying his husband, Mr. Moore, right, John Moore, the former COO, a salary without work. So essentially his husband was not working. So remember back to his statement when he...
I think his husband was the finance guy, if I'm not mistaken. Now, in reality, we know that he kind of sit back and relax and did nothing. But I think inside of the company, he had, like, work to do, essentially, right? He had a position.
says, hey,
I may be wrong
the
about
senior
that,
leadership resigned. Well, yeah, one of them was your husband who wasn't doing any work, right? Using using company funds for a California mansion, definitely not permissible. And then using loans as revenue to secure larger loans. So essentially, they were taking loans based on promised revenue or based on that Kickstarter revenue.
Wait, but what if that mention make me feel good about myself so I'd be more productive at work? Think about that.
Once again, all going back to Kickstarter.
You're one step behind.
That Kickstarter revenue, using that to secure a loan, and then counting the loan as revenue, which is not good accounting practice. Yeah. I'm not an accountant, but I can tell you right now that's not a good accounting practice. It is forbidden, right? To use a loan as revenue to secure a larger loan, right? And that's just a big pyramid of debt that ends up collapsing on you. And then sabotaging the company upon his resignation. So all of these things happened, and this lawsuit was concluded, and TFE foreclosed on Intrepid, seizing all its assets and IP. Yeah. So,
and it's so crazy that he did that too. I mean, you can cheat everyone. You can never cheat the bank. Never, bro. Like, never do that. They would literally hunt you down. They're insane, brother. Like, they're crazy. Like, don't mess with the IRS. Don't mess with the banks. Like, if you mess with government funds, you're cooked. That's pretty much it. And he did that, apparently. So, wow. Kudos to him. He's going to have a rough time.
They did get the assets and IP in this case, and it does show, once again, you've got evidence out there, you've got documents that have been released to show that these things happen. So these documents and evidence are now used by people, such as on YouTube, to expose them, accounting and tax emails, etc. But they can also be used in other class actions, and that's very important here. Next, there was the Yaya legacy lawsuit, which was another large investor, Jason Karamis, against Sharif. And this one's got really the big key points here, pretty much saying that Sharif orchestrated a $140 million fraud scheme by falsifying self-funding when he really gave no money himself. So he had zero personal investment, looking at the QuickBooks and using that as the evidence to say, hey, he's got nothing in here. He was failing to report monthly losses of $2.3 million every month. Think about that.
How do you fail to report a loss of 200 mil? What the hell? Dude, he did all the wrong thing. No way he can actually escape that. Every single time I hear a new piece of information, it just dig the hole deeper. It's not a hole, it's a chasm. What the hell is going on there? It was so bad for this long, and he just kept face along with it. It's so crazy to think that he told us everything was fine until, I think, like a few days before everything just imploded. It's insane, man. This guy's unhinged.
Not putting those losses on the book, that's crazy. Having no board meetings
that's not crazy, that's just illegal.
9 years. And this is one that I like, how negligent do you have to be?
Imagine if the judge hear all of this and he's go like, damn, that's crazy. You go to jail.
To not have a single board meeting in 9 years. That's really how you pull the wool over people's eyes. Wow. You're just not talking about things. You're not having any minutes. You're not doing what a normal corporation would do. You'd have board meetings very regularly. If not, when you're really spinning up, you might even have monthly or bi-monthly, right? If you're really in a building phase. But having none, that's not acceptable. Using Steam revenue for personal gain, bankrupting Intrepid Studios, and rejecting a restructuring. Remember, businesses can more easily go through bankruptcy and restructuring than personal accounts and personal bankruptcies.
And by the way, I want to make this absolutely clear. These are all allegations, okay? These are what people claiming Steven did, like this legacy lawsuit. It's basically just all allegations. Nothing is 100% confirmed yet. So do take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of receipts that support these claims.
So it's always possible, even if you're in deep, even if you have a lot of problems, if along the way in this 9 year
it can be exaggeration.
Journey, if Sharif wanted to redirect the company and go elsewhere and try to restructure it or try to get things right, that could have been done. There's points at which in a company you can restructure even a really bad situation, and you can try to go get alternative funding or try to argue different debt rates, etc. That's always possible, but they decided not to do any of that. And this lawsuit is now impending. And now getting to the one thing that I'm kind of passionate about, which is Kickstarter. As somebody who's invested in some Kickstarter stuff in my time, and looking at, what was promised, these are tier lists from one of the Kickstarter campaigns. There were, from what I'm aware, talking to people, there were multiple Kickstarter campaigns, but from one of them, you got the Warrior of Old at 250, Braver Worlds at 500, Leader of Men at 1,000.
So crazy looking back on this and realize how much this was a scam. Like, Jesus, man, look at that. All of these promises of things that potentially can be in the game, for the future. Like, none of this came into fruition. None of this. In 9 years of development, nothing. Literally, not a glimpse, not a fraction of a hope anything would see. Anything would be inside of the game. So crazy.
And all the way up to Avatar of the Phoenix at 10K a pop. And what you're promised here are things that you can use in the game, is getting access to the game and being able to use all these things, have all these things. Look, some of them have lifetime subscriptions, etc. And the way they tried to snake out of this, the way they try to get out of being responsible for this is saying, we launched the game. We launched the game. Well, was that really a launch? It was more of an early access that you had barely 2 months, under 2 months of access.
Shame on them.
I don't really think so. So getting into the Kickstarter claims, which have not been filed, but people are wanting these things to be filed, I think under California law, piercing the corporate veil against Stephen Sharif is very likely to succeed. So there is a possibility for these things to kick off. There's very strong evidence for fraudulent inducement and misrepresentation, which is California Civil Code Section 1572, breach of contract and implied covenant, and unjust enrichment. So for the Kickstarter TOS and the campaign promise, putting those together, saying, hey, you put this on Kickstarter, look at the TOS, look what you have to deliver there, plus your promises during the campaign, that's an enforceable obligation. That's something where you have a obligation to launch the game truly or refund. Really?
Yeah, so the money really lies in the fact that whether the Steam launch was considered a launch. That's the thing, right? Because if the game didn't launch, obviously, they would have 100% had to give that money back. But now that the Steam was actually launched, maybe they don't have to do that. It's just a matter of semantics at this point, and I guess only a court can decide. I'm not really that familiar with the legalities. I have not a damn clue about how the court operates and stuff, so I don't know anything about the inner mechanisms of will it actually be fruitful or not. But at the same time, I really hope it will, because people deserve their Kickstarter money back, even though they were super foolish to just invest in it in the first place. I really wish they would get their money back, but I don't think it would happen. I don't believe that. Really.
I mean, to me, that's
I hope
pretty
so,
straight
but
up.
I don't believe
and
that
is one of the strongest claims for people looking to put this together. And then you also can look at early access as not a launch per expectations, especially after a 9-year delay. And looking at the backers giving so much money, $3.27 million, which Sharif misused. He's enriched by that. So he himself personally was enriched by that, some of which he used to secure loans, which he mismanaged or misused, but it has to go back to that original 3.27 million that the game wouldn't have been started without. So backers, if they want to get behind this, which I know a lot of people are talking about this on different platforms right now, they should really document their pledges. They should save all those statements from Sharif and join in a class action. Try to find a class action in California that has very, very, very good law.
Absolutely. 100% right about that. And I just kind of want to add one more thing here, is that I got a few comments that told me that Steven being a fool and mismanaged the entire project doesn't mean that he's fraudulent, and doesn't mean that he's a scammy person, scummy person. Guys, are you aware that mismanaging funds on such a high level of money, literally millions, is fraudulent? It inherently is. Because you said one thing, you promised one thing, and you did completely other stuff with it. Now, if you did this, not from a bad place, but simply because you were stupid, it doesn't matter. You did it, and you deserve to be punished for it. 100%. So, I don't care if he did it out of malice or just, malpractice. I do not care. I literally do not care. He should have his comeuppance.
So let's get to the judgment. There's a very high likelihood of piercing the corporate veil against Stephen Sharif and possibly others, such as his husband, right? You've got possible claims for fraudulent inducement, breach of implied contract, and unjust enrichment for those Kickstarter backers. So I really think they should seriously consider this as a way to fight back. Courts need to offer a remedy for backers and crowdfunders to prevent them from being scammed in the future. Backers, I know what they're giving is small compared to a 401k or a pension fund or a large investor, but they shouldn't be treated as expendable, and they shouldn't be treated as second-class citizens in the law and under the law. They
I like
shouldn't
that.
have
He's right.
to look and say, okay, well, I've given up this money now. This money is gone. I'm not going to get anything from it. That can be a lot of money to a person. If they gave 250 or 1,000, maybe to them that was a lot of money. And yes, it's not $99 million, right? But it's something and should be given back to them. And so I do think they should come together and form a lawsuit and look at a remedy here, because this is an unjust thing that happened. And Ashes of Creation is absolutely one of the biggest scams that I've seen in really recent history regarding games. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Have you heard of this? Did you know about it?
I agree. 100%. Man, I love this guy. I watched a couple of his videos before. I really hoped he would talk about Ashes, and thankfully, he did. So I'm going to leave a link in the description. You guys can watch this video for yourself. Of course, give him a like and a sub. He's incredible. I pretty much said everything that I have to say. I just really hope that Steven would not get away with this. And I know that I say it like a million times on each video I make about Ashes, but you guys don't understand how important it is to me that he would get his punishment, rightful justice, should I say, because more and more people are watching this and they are considering doing the same damn thing. And you see Kickstarter MMOs being funded each day, even though we had this thing happening, which I thought would never work again, but apparently I was wrong about that. You guys made sure to let me know that more and more MMOs are being funded right now as we speak. And yeah, we'll just have more of these. So if you have proper punishment to those who engages in this type of practice, you would see less and less products trying to fool you out of your money. Okay? So this is why it's so important to me that he gets what he deserves, and also because he ruined so many people's lives. Developers, backers, like so many others, people, investors, right? There's so many people involved that had their money inside of Intrepid Studios because they genuinely believed in the product, and it was all a sham. So I really, really hope this guy would get some jail time. Not legal fees, not financial troubles. No, I really hope to see him behind bars, because I think he earned that, rightfully.